Okay, welcome everyone. This is the intro video for Geology 204-205, Geology of Colorado at Regis University. This is a summer travel learning course. This is the first in a series of videos, and in this video I just want to give you a little bit of introduction to the course and start off with just some basic geography of Colorado to get us all started. So the class this summer, it runs July 28th to August 10th, 2018. We'll be on campus July 28th, 29th, and 30th, and then we'll be in the field on our road trip July 31st and return to Denver on August 10th. Last semester, or last year, we did this trip in May, right after graduation, so it was early May. We got hit by 2 really big snowstorms, so that made the camping a little bit of an adventure. It was kind of cold. This year we're going in August, so I don't anticipate any big snowstorms, but you should be prepared for lots of different kinds of weather. We'll be up at pretty high elevations where it can freeze any night of the year. We can also expect heat, sun. We may have to change our itinerary based on wildfire activity and things like that, so be prepared for the elements. But we will have a lot of fun. This is always a really good trip, and we should learn a lot. We'll be stopping in a lot of really cool places. Okay, so a couple of reminders. Here's the main things you need to do before we start class on July 28th. That's a Saturday, so don't be thrown off by that. Number 1 is you should obtain the book. The required book is Roadside Geology of Colorado by Williams and Cronick, right there. You should be able to pick that up for between $15 and $20 just about anywhere on Amazon, or any kind of bookstore around Colorado should have it. Make sure you get the 3rd edition, because that one has color maps, color photos, and things like that. Earlier editions are black and white and they're not quite as nice. The other thing you need to do, so you should obtain the book and read chapter 1. The other thing you need to do is make sure you log into World Class. Hopefully you've done this already if you're watching this video. But log into World Class, and there's a whole series of these videos. I think there's 11 or 12 of them. Watch the videos and then take the online quizzes. There's a series of, I think, just 10 question multiple choice quizzes based on the content we'll be covering in these videos. Make sure you do that before coming to class, so we'll all have sort of that basic background. The first chapter in the textbook gives you a real whirlwind tour of geology, and then we'll cover some of the basics in these videos as well. And then we meet in 204 Science Building at 9 a.m. on Saturday the 28th of July. Okay, so I want to just talk about some basic physical geography of Colorado, just to get us oriented and kind of familiar with where we're headed on this trip. So Colorado is a big boxy state. It's one of the big boxy states out in the western U.S. And the reason it's so boxy is because the state boundaries are defined only by latitude and longitude. So right, latitude and longitude are the imaginary grid that's placed on the Earth. Lines of latitude run east to west, and they're your angular distance north and south of the equator. So the northern boundary of Colorado is 41 degrees north latitude, and the southern boundary is 37 degrees north latitude. And then lines of longitude, which intersect at the poles, they're not parallel, which is why Colorado is not a perfect rectangle. It's more of a trapezoid. So the eastern boundary of Colorado is about 102 degrees west longitude, and the western boundary is about 109 degrees west longitude, so we get this nice box. One of only 3 states whose whose boundaries are not defined by any physical features, only latitude, longitude. Utah and Wyoming are the others. Every other state has at least part of their boundary defined by a river or a mountain range or a coastline or some kind of natural feature. But what's interesting about this map is it shows elevation. So all it's really showing is elevation, and there's some roads and things on here as well. But if you look down here at the legend shows you that in color we see the different elevations. So our lowest elevations are darker green, and then as we go through lighter green and yellow and light brown and dark brown, we get to higher elevations, and then our highest elevations are in gray and white. So just by seeing the elevation above sea level, we really get an idea of the shape of the landscape and some of the physical features. So I'm going to draw. If you look at this map, just take a glance at it, you can see that we've got basically three big regions of the state. So if I draw a line down here along what's called the Front Range of the Rockies, we see that we're dividing two big regions over here. So over here to the east, everything's sort of lower elevation and it's generally flatter, and that's the high plains. I'm going to put an HP there for high plains. In the middle of the state here, I'm going to separate it from some of the western portions here by just drawing another red line. And this is our sort of Rocky Mountain region, right? This is the southern Rocky Mountains. I'm just going to put an RM in the middle, and this has our highest mountains, right? You can see all those white and gray areas. Those are our highest peaks, and these are formed by basically pushing rocks together and thrusting them up, right? So we have all these folded and faulted mountain ranges indicated by the white areas of highest elevation. And then if we look over here to the west, we've got our Colorado Plateau, right? So a little lower elevation than our high mountain peaks, and we've got sort of, it looks flatter, but we've got like these flat-topped, this is canyon country, right? So we've got flat-top mesas and plateaus and deep canyons in between. That sort of classic western landscape. So those are our three major divisions of the state, according to physical features or topography. But we can sort of further subdivide this if we look a little closer at this map. So first off, in the Rocky Mountain region, we've got these intermontane parks, which are sort of flat areas ringed by mountains. So here we've got North Park, and then we've got Middle Park here, and then we've got South Park, which is right there, and then we've got the San Luis Valley, which is a really, really big one. These are fascinating places. We'll talk about how these form in the class, but they're really beautiful landscapes because you've got this flat country surrounded by really, really high mountains. It's fairly unique to Colorado. At least we've got really big intermontane parks in Colorado. We can also subdivide this. If I draw a line more or less around here, this part of the it's not really part of the Colorado Plateau. This is called the Wyoming Basin, and it's got a lot of down-warped rocks. We're not going to make it up. It's pretty far to the northwest. We're not going to make it up to the Wyoming Basin on this trip. It's a little different from the Colorado Plateau. And then the other interesting section of the state is right here. This mountain range here, this is the San Juan Mountains, SJ. And the San Juans are a little different. Up here in the Rockies, we've got these folded and faulted mountains that were pushed together and thrust upward. The San Juans are volcanic. They're old volcanoes. So we get very different landforms, very different rocks, and a very different landscape down in the San Juans, which we will visit. The other things we can see from this map, we can see the big rivers that drain the state. So there's basically three major rivers that drain the state of Colorado, that all this snow melt coming off the Rockies flows out of the state. So down here we've got the Arkansas River, and that flows off into Kansas. And then up here we've got the South Platte River that flows through Denver, and it joins into the Platte River, which flows into Nebraska. There's another tributary up here. And then on the west side of the Rockies, we've got the Colorado River, which comes out this way, and a major tributary of that is the Gunnison River, which flows into the Colorado River, and those go off into Utah. We've got another really cool river up here called the Yampa River, which is more or less here, and that joins the Colorado farther down into Utah. It's another tributary of the Colorado. So what we see, if we follow the highest peaks, I'll use purple here. If we follow the highest peaks of the mountains, it forms the Continental Divide. And what that means is it divides these major river basins So everything on the east side of the divide flows into either the Platte River or the Arkansas River, and those flow into the Missouri River and then into the Mississippi and then into the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. Everything on the west side of the divide, the highest peaks of the mountains, will flow into one of the tributaries of the Colorado, and the Colorado River flows down into Utah and then all the way down to the Gulf of Cortez and the Pacific Ocean. So the Rocky Mountains, the spine of the Rocky Mountains going through North America divide are rivers that flow into the two great oceans. This gives you sort of a general view of the sort of landforms and landscapes and where we're going to go. On the next slide, I'll show you the route that we're going to take. Okay, so I have a different map here now. You can still see Colorado. I will sloppily outline it with red, but you can see the boundaries of the state right here. And this is a different kind of map. Instead of using color to define elevation, basically all the landforms are drawn with these interesting sort of pen and ink symbols. It's a really kind of fascinating map. But I'm using this to show basically what our route is going to be on the trip. This map has some labels and some other cool things, so it's a little easier to follow along. So here we are in Denver, the mile-high city at 5,280 feet above sea level. We're going to leave Denver on July 31st, and we're going to drive down mostly I-25, and we're going to go down this way towards Pikes Peak. And near Pikes Peak, we're going to stop for a little day hike on the Pikes Peak batholith. Batholith is a kind of igneous rock, igneous intrusion that we're going to visit. And then from there, we'll do a little day hike, and we're going to make our way down to the Spanish Peaks. The Spanish Peaks have fantastic volcanic rocks. Actually, they're intrusive igneous rocks, but we'll talk about that. Really, really fantastic and not very commonly visited part of the state. We'll camp there on the first night. On day 2, we're going to drive over La Veta Pass, over the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, into the San Luis Valley, and we're going to stop up here at Great Sand Dunes National Park. We're not going to camp there overnight, but we'll go and we'll climb around the dunes. It's a fantastic spot with 750-foot tall sand dunes pushed up against the mountains. It's a really beautiful place. Then we're going to drive across the San Luis Valley, past Del Norte, and up into the San Juan Mountains. And we're going to camp somewhere around here near Lake City, and there's a really interesting spot with an ancient landslide along Slumgullion Pass, and so we're going to go and explore that. And then from there we'll go up this way towards Black Canyon of the Gunnison. We might stop there and have a peek over the edge of the gorge. But we're going to make our way up to Grand Junction. And just outside of Grand Junction is Colorado National Monument. And this is a fantastic spot, a plateau with flat-lying sedimentary rocks out on the Colorado Plateau. This really interesting canyon country. We'll spend a couple of nights there. Then we're going to go over here to Grand Mesa. Grand Mesa is the largest flat-topped mountain in the world. The top of it is around 11,000 feet above sea level. It's fantastic subalpine forest, some interestingly formed lakes, and the whole top of the mountain is an ancient lava flow. So it's really interesting geologically. And then we're going to make our way down from Grand Mesa, and we're going to spend a few days exploring the Elk Mountains, which are right here. And it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the state. Really classic Colorado scenery, and just some really, really interesting geology too. So we'll spend some time camping in the Elk Mountains, and then we will make our way back to Denver on August 10th. So in the next video, we'll start by our first real geological topic. We're going to talk about plate tectonics. And then we'll have a series of videos, so remember to watch those videos and take the quiz after each one, buy the textbook, and read Chapter 1, and I'll see everybody in class on July 28th.